Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you very much for stopping by. I had planned a much longer presentation tonight, and I just couldn't put something together that I was happy with, and it didn't take too long and everything else. And with disturbances and so on, I was going to be like 2 in the morning before I got the whole darn thing done and up at YouTube and captions and everything else. So I said, nope. This is wrong. I'm going to redo it tomorrow, and I'm going to do it the way I want it when I feel better about it. I don't put anything up until I feel good about it. If not good, at least acceptable. However, I do want to say this. We're fine. The food is flowing. People are moving back and forth. The meetings, negotiations are beginning. They keep starting and restarting and so on because more people want to join. It's getting into quite an affair. Fine. It is in the hands of the Panamanian people, where it belongs. And it's important, I think, that, well, I know it's important, absolutely important, to step back and expats and not get too involved, not take sides. This is for them to decide themselves, the people of this country. We can all have opinions. This is a free country. I have a right to my own opinion. But I also have the right to keep it to myself if I think it's going to be hurtful. So do you, the same thing. Likewise, the Panamanians. But the key point is that we are not citizens. They are. I think the best way to put it is if they have a passport, that passport is to Panama. The rest of us have passports that can take us all sorts of different countries. I mean, literally, unless there's some legal thing after us, we can go down to the airport and get on a plane and fly away because we have a passport to another country. This is home, and it's going to stay that way for the majority of people here. They have everything at stake here, and this is their business, not ours, even though it affects us, even though it will affect them in the future. Mistakes made now will be felt even harder down the line, but the right things being done now can make big steps forward. It's an ongoing process, and I will stand, as I always have, behind them as they continue to work, but behind them, and let them choose the direction. One of the things that people sometimes, some new people coming in will get the wrong impression that this is an American site. It is not. The European and Latin American visitors have grown substantially in recent years. We have Asians, as well, of course, as North Americans. But the key thing is that it is not, just because I'm a U.S. citizen does not mean that has any significance whatsoever in what's done here. I am a resident of Panama. I will die here in Panama. I will be donated to a medical school, and the students there can make good use of what remains. That sort of thing, you know. This is where my heart is, and for a whole variety of reasons, and I feel exactly the same way as I have for 18 years. And I'm not that upset about that portion of it. I know from 55 years of working all over the world in international economic development that no nation makes great progress even in a year or 2 or 5. This nation didn't get control of its own territory until 2000, the year 2000. And then only at that point did it really get started as a truly independent and whole nation. Other nations have had similar things, but nothing quite that dramatic. So it's still a very young nation with a very long history, but a young nation. It's still working its way through it, and they will do it. I have great confidence in it. I'm not worried about Panamanians in the long run. I know it's going to be tough in the short run. For the rest of us, the best we can do is be supportive and hopeful and what have you, but not directive, not telling them what to do. Don't take sides. Let them begin to deal with it. And if you want to sit with friends and talk about it, or Panamanian friends, I have a lot of friends. Most of my friends are Panamanians, and we're going to sit and talk about this a lot. We have been all week, but it's not necessary for me to go out in the public and talk about what I think Panamanians should do. It's wrong. I'm not going to do it. So the end result is that of what I'm going to be talking about to be a little broader based. Try to help you get it all in perspective and a greater scene. But I'm going to leave you with one thing tonight because I think it's something that people don't stop and think of. And this is a map. It's a Google map. I'm going to stick it up. And give me a minute. Here we go. This is, it's not the best map because the yellow roads are very hard to see against the background or what have you, but it's what I could pick up easily and quickly. And they use numbers. We don't use them here as a rule, but Route 1 is the Pan American Highway. And you can see where it is over David, if you look carefully, and then across Santiago, where much of this action has been taking place, and then on to Panama City, and off to the east. One spur of it goes up to Colón, which is the Atlantic side end of the Panama Canal. Now, there's a mountain range going down the middle of the country, basically. So what I'm getting the point here is that the Pan American Highway, that number 1 there, is a Pacific road. It runs along the Pacific. And so does the overwhelming bulk of the population of the country. Actually, the majority is right there in the middle of the country, around Panama City metropolitan area. But you include everybody else along the Pan American Highway, and you pretty much got the bulk of the country's population right there. And so when you can, let's put it this way, I have never been in a country like Panama where a few hundred people can get in a highway and sort of bring the whole country to a halt, as just happened. I mean, it's impossible. There are so many other roads, but we don't have that here. We have this. And you might think, oh, that's a terrible thing. I'm not sure. Sure it is. I know it means that, you better come with a clear idea of what you want and how you're going to get it, because if you do all this to everybody, because everybody gets hurt, and you don't come up with something good, you're going to lose a lot of credibility real fast. Public opinion will settle this eventually, but that's their decision, not anyone else's. But so you might say that's a bad thing about it. But I have lived and worked in nations all over the world that were many times in serious trouble, far more serious trouble than this country is now. And the biggest single problem was they didn't have a way to force the government to stop and force the whole society to deal with the issue. They couldn't just stop the traffic in a single road and everything comes to a screeching halt. Here they can. This is infinitely more useful than having to arm military guerrilla groups up in the mountains and have sort of semi-military paramilitary groups in the cities and so on. Guys, this is actually a blessing. Now, it isn't going to be a blessing to the people who do it unless they do the job and they convince the public, and it's going to be debated. We worry about it. But it's so much better than the alternative. And I think I like to see things that way. I think we're very fortunate we can so easily disrupt things, but we so rarely do here. And that's very important, both of them. So in any event, it's not a tale of woe. We had some silly expats running around saying that President Cortizo was going to declare martial law. He was going to remove constitutional rights would be suspended. I mean, nonsense like that. And armed ships, American armed ships were coming down. What is this nonsense? Just ridiculous stuff coming out of a few loud expat voices. I was happy to see, though, that the crowd that's down here now is different than, although they're many of the same people, they're in a different position than 12, 15 years ago, because they know better what's happening. And I noticed when I went around to different groups to take a look at what was going on, that people were policing their own groups. They were challenging, where did you get this photo? I've seen that photo before, it's not the right photo. Or they would say, source do you have for this information? Give us a source. They didn't have it. So it helped a great deal to have expats themselves standing up. In the early days, they didn't have enough background to do that. Now they do. They've been living here for a long time, too. It isn't necessary that I agree or whatever. It isn't the point. The point is that they were actively seeking to keep things calm and cool within their own groups and not get overly excited about the whole thing and cause more trouble than it's worth. And anyhow, so that's a good sign. So this is the reality of life here. And I'll tell you, I don't care what you say. What's going on now is incredibly important to the Panamanian people and to their future. But it is in the midst of a crazy world, and you come from other countries, and you think this country has problems? Physician, heal thyself. In any event, thank you very much for stopping in. Sorry about this. I will do my very best to be back tomorrow with something that's a little bit more useful, perhaps, than tonight. But I wanted to say something, and here it is. Thank you so much.